Hi, everyone. Very excited to have Jan here today. Our first Retailer 7 questions. Jan, company name, your name, and a little bit about the shop.
Hi, good morning or good day, all. My shop is the Broadway Deli and Grocery in Woodford Green. It is a sort of a higher-end supermarket and wine store. We bring grocery and deli together, where we basically offer a lot of deli type products, so small produced, independently produced products in a grocery setting. So we don't give you displays with 10 or 12 of one and the same product. We have 12 different products on a shelf, and that allows us in a smaller space to have about 3,500 products, which we all carefully select, taste, and review for fitness on our shelves. And it's a joy and a pleasure to do that.
Great. So let's start with the first question. Good food is?
Well, the top line of good food for us is something that wows you enough that you want to, for us as a consumer, I would say, is something that wows you enough to want to come back for and buy again. When it comes to the professional side of it, I think our line is that if it is ultra processed, contains disputable ingredients, we tend to avoid it. If price and quality add up, measured by the product in all of its aspects and the presentation, we tend to consider it a good food. So good food is obviously one perception and what you like as a consumer, but for us, where we can sort of pre-select for our customers, that is, it is a clean deck type product.
Excellent. And how did you get into the independent food industry?
Well, in the early 2000s, I lived in Greece and I worked there for the largest honey company of the country as an export manager. And through them, it allowed me to meet very many small producers, learn a lot about real food from smaller artisanal producers, and visit the most amazing independent fine food retailers and independent food stores around the world, including in the UK, the US, the Middle East, Russia, France, and so on. It made me increasingly aware that of the difference between over and ultra processed foods and the clean or cleaner deck foods. And when I moved to the UK in 2010, I first worked for a food manufacturer predominantly serving the multiple retail, which I found very soon that it is not my world. I can't really ground in the multiple retail world. It's about numbers, not about food. And I then moved on to independent brands like Mr. Organic and later Saggiano, which operate with the principles and in the markets where I feel more like let's say, like a fish in the water.
A fish in the water, I like that.
Right.
So what's been a high point and a low point in the shop so far?
Well, I was thinking about that, and to be honest, every day is a high point, really. I mean, we're about to celebrate our 5th anniversary as a shop, and we've been going strong from day one. And I think that's simply by just sticking to our guns. We care. We care about our service, we care about our customers, we care about our offering, and we care about the people we work with, our partners. Low points usually have to do with the attitude of people, customers and suppliers alike, and you know, potentially possibly our staff, but of course that is, you know, only high points. But
you had the flood as well, didn't you?
Our heads hang low for long. One major low point at the moment for me, I found, and that is actually after visiting the specialty food show recently, is the apparent lack of innovation in our food market, in our independent market, and possibly also in the larger market. And I think we used to see more innovation. We used to spot more exciting new finds. I think personally that Brexit plays a role.
Yes.
It's too costly, too difficult to bring in new products, to try new products. I fear that even within our niche, if you will, we'll be going more mainstream because of this. I mean, you need volume to make a UK import work these days, and we used to be able to get, you know, small quantities of things that were very niche and not costly to bring in because it was part of a pallet that could freely move within the European borders.
Absolutely. Oh, you had your flood as well. I mentioned that earlier.
My flood?
Yeah, was that flood? Did you have the basement flood?
Oh, yeah, that was last year and the year before.
Yeah.
But still, that's not a low point. It helps you get rid of stuff. No, I mean, it makes you aware that it's a rainy country, which I knew.
Yeah.
because I've lived there for.
So what action have you implemented that has created a positive result in the business?
For us, from day one, we've implemented service, and it sounds obvious, service, but it isn't. For a start, I thought, okay, I can really make a difference if I offer really good service, because all of us that work in the shop, we're annoyed by the lack of service that you receive out there. We approach everyone that comes in our shop. We tell them about the products they might be interested in. We help them. We smile at them. We wish them a friendly hello or a goodbye and a thank you. And it really matters. Knowing as much about what you stock and sell is also very important when you operate at the higher levels or the independent levels of our market. And yeah, that's it.
And you offer everyone a cup of coffee?
Well, yes, I mean, new people that come to the shop, we like to sort of, give them a welcome cup of coffee. We are returning customers. We don't have these little cards that we stamp and therefore know that you've been here before. We actually look you in the eye. We give you a coffee because we see that you come back and want to thank you because it's you, not because you carry around a loyalty card.
Right. Interesting. So what one thing in the food industry would you change if you had a magic wand?
I believe that we need to be able and to be allowed to create way more awareness about food production practices, about junk food, the real cost of food. I mean, Jamie Oliver can't be the only visible advocate. He's almost too easy to be controversial because he's like a multimillionaire socialist, which is a contradiction of sorts. He's the guy that we love to sort of dismiss when he wants to try and do something because it's just for his PR. But on the other hand, he's the one that made McDonald's move to a cleaner product. It probably still isn't great, but at least it became something. He's the one that addressed school meals about the quality of what to show that children didn't even know what something is when they get it on their plate. I mean, there should be more of him and we should allow more of him. And we should be able to do this. I mean, there's not enough about the real cost of food. And especially just before Brexit, for me, it was more obvious that we have like a bent economy because of it almost. Because if we allow for people to come in for picking fruits and veggies or whatever for monies that aren't on par with what one should make per hour, then there's never a real price on food, is it? Mm-hmm. And now we're all surprised and scared that food is getting out of hand, but actually we're starting to pay the real cost of food. And interestingly for us as a higher end retailer is that the difference between the multiple supermarkets and us is actually reducing because we're not going up as much as that they are. So the gap between what you pay for, let's say, a jar of pasta sauce in our shop and in a Sainsbury's or Tesco's, that difference starts to really reduce, and people start to appreciate that it's actually not as mad as they thought it was when you come in a shop like ours.
That's really interesting what you said. When I was at college, I worked in Norfolk. I'm not going to name anything there. I worked in Norfolk on where they were picking vegetables and cauliflowers and bulbs and everything. And yeah, everyone was just paid such a low wage for foreign workers. But I always used to think, well, if these guys were paid the proper British wage, then all the products in the shop would go up in value. It would go up in cost overnight. Yes. So it's almost as if people turned a blind eye because that's how they kept the price down.
Well, that's it. And I think that blind eye has been turned. I mean, as simple as that. I mean, the real cost of food has never been reflected for years. And that's why I mean, when I came to the UK, coming out of a sort of a mindset of thinking in pounds, if you will, when it came to negotiations with retailers across the world. In the UK, suddenly it is about pence, I should say. Mm-hmm. And I remember being in a negotiation with, I believe it was Tesco's, where 8 months we went over and over and over for 2 pence. Mm-hmm. It sort of defeats. I mean, yeah, it's all about the cost and the money, which is good, but it like that, an economy doesn't reflect what it should be reflecting, and it is
Mhm.
that if you pay or have to pay £2, and that's
Mhm.
for something, and that's there's actual wages behind it that reflected
Mhm.
to get to that £2 for the picking, for the production, for
Mhm.
whatever it is, then that economy will reflect that, and
There's
it
a really
doesn't.
interesting there's a lady on TikTok called Edith that runs Lancashire Meat Box. I think it's called Lancashire something, but she's constantly talking on her lives about why her products cost what they cost and what goes into it. And that's what the cost is. But it's not, we're not charging £26 a kilo for whatever, for a reason. This is why we're charging it. And I think that education is really important.
Yeah, well, it is very important. I think that whatever sort of any food outlet or producer or manufacturer here, when you go to the under processed or the not ultra or over processed manufactured foods, the insight in that part of the food industry is very blurred. I mean, there's a lot known about the cost of dairy and whatever more, and how the Icelands and other retailers are sort of questioned about windfall profits and whether they are overcharging or anything as such. But there's very little known about, what does it cost really, and the effort, the time, the the ingredients, what it costs to make, let's say, a jar of jam that is more from a smaller producer. That we don't know. What sort of sugars are used? What sort of, this and the other. I mean, there's a lot of meddling within the food industry, and there's various grades of quality of what ingredients
Mm.
go in there. So it'd be nice if we can get more exposure on what we in our field either present or produce.
Yes.
And thankfully there's institutions like the Guild of Fine Foods and so on that are trying that, and I think they should get more voice, or there should be more, it should be added to what they do, that part of education, and get it into the mainstream somehow. It should be allowed, it should be encouraged. I don't know how yet, but
Yeah, and that's fascinating. What's the most favorite food product you sell and why?
well, that's
Your personal
I
one.
mean, the silliest question to ask somebody that sells a lot of food products because they like food. But and so as such, I have very many products that meet the favorite food accolade for me. But if I had to pick one, it's the raw basil pesto by Seggiano. Seggiano is an Italian brand that operates or has always operated mainly in the UK and now also in the US.
Mhm.
But they make this amazing raw basil pesto, which is only 5 ingredients, one of which is extra virgin olive oil and the other is salt. And it's non-pasteurized, and it's an amazing example of something really good, really pretty, in a jar that has a long shelf life, that is like as nature intended it, if you will.
It's a fun, and every shop I go to that stocks it, they always say it's their best-selling product in the shop.
It is.
So, yeah.
It is for us, and I know it's for Saggiano, and I know it's
Mm.
for everyone that sells that
Yeah, yeah,
product. Yeah.
fantastic. Do you have a dirty food secret?
Yep.
Come on, go on.
For me, it would be my happy moment, and that is then without pickles. This one, because that's another happy moment, but would be a pizza quattro formaggio from a proper Italian with
Mm.
4 or 5 cheeses if they have them, Parma ham, anchovies, and fresh chili. That really makes me happy.
About the food club, what you find the food club, how if it works, benefits for you?
I think very much so. I mean, you and I are regularly in contact. It's that alone. We keep each other updated. The nice thing I find of the food club is that it's an exchange. It's not so much that you are trying to push a catalog in my hands, and which you do, and you do it very well because you break it down in chapters or preferences or interests. But it's also nice to have an exchange. That sometimes you're in our busy world, you can also be a bit on your own, everyone on their own little island, and to get feedback from you, for instance, about what you see around, to confirm or unconfirm some of the things that I think are going on, is really nice, because you are institutional in your own way. You've done this long enough. You've seen a lot of shops, a lot of producers. You get a lot of feedback. that to me is very important, and that makes that I want to look at what you have to offer, and because I know what you have to offer usually supports the same principles and the same sort of morale even as we have. So yes, for me it's a great gain to have you in my small beautiful world.
That's and it's great to be in that beautiful world as well. Yeah, and again, thank you so much. You're a lovely person, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's really good to see you.
Cheers.